Welcome to the vault. Today I've got a brand new old book you are going to love. This one I got for sale was only $75 because nobody has ever heard of it, doesn't even know the value of it. It's called The Subconscious Mind in Business. It was written by the same author who wrote a book that is famous called Obvious Atoms, which maybe we'll review in another video. But this is like a lost gem. A lot of times you find an author who wrote a book that everyone knows about, and then they have these other ones that no one's heard of. And I never heard this one, and I read it, and it literally is one of my favorites. I think I've got about a half dozen books this author wrote, but this one was fascinating because I did a whole event, 3-day event called Selling Online, where we teach people how to do subconscious selling, which is speaking to somebody's subconscious mind to sell them something. My new book is like using subconscious mind to sell yourself on your ideas and your goals. And then this book's kind of in between where it's like literally subconscious mind in business. So I got it and I instantly read it because I was like, this is my type of book. It's a short book, it's a fast read, but there were some gems in here that actually shifted my perspective on how I structure my work days. So it's a really good one. Especially in the business world, a lot of people don't want to learn about mindset for some reason. I had this conversation with Tony Robbins. It was after our second Funnel Hacking Live, and I had a chance to have a conversation with him. And I was like, hey, we have this event called Funnel Hacking Live. We have thousands of people from around the world come here. And I'm like, blows my mind. We get, a percentage of people have success, and I don't understand it. It's like, I'm giving them everything. I give them my frameworks, my funnels, the best of I have, and I give it all to him. And Tony kind of smiles at me. He's like, oh, you could tell that he'd already solved this problem like 2 decades ago. And he's like, you still think that someone's successful not based on the tactics, right? I'm like, yeah, that's why I have the best tactics in the world. And he's like, yeah, you have to understand. He's like, success is like 10% tactics and 90% psychology. He's like, it's the things between their ears, their brain. He's like, and people don't want to hear that though. So usually you have to like sell them what they want, which is how to make money or how to do whatever. He's like, but then you give them what they need, which is you help reframe their mindset. So I remember after I had that conversation, that's when I asked her, I'm like, would you come to Funnel Hacking Live then and do the whole psychology thing with my people? Because I need them to be successful. Like I'm killing myself, giving them everything I have, and I need more success. And so Tony spoke at our 3rd Funnel Hacking Live. He ended up speaking at 5 of the 10 Funnel Hacking Lives, and he would always focus for 3 to 4. One time he went for like 6 or 7 hours on psychology. And so psychology is interesting, and I've noticed a lot, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, they don't want to focus on. They don't think it's what they need. They think it's like, oh, I just need the tactic. I just need the strategy. If I get those things figured out. But the reality is, and this is me doing this now for 2.5 decades. I've been in this business 25 years. I've coached literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of entrepreneurs at this point. It's not that they're smarter or better looking or faster or like have more money. It literally is the ones who understand how to control their mindset are the ones who win. And I saw this initially in athletics, right? I grew up as a wrestler. During practice, I would lose to these guys. They were better wrestlers than me. And then we'd go to these tournaments and we step on the mat and they would lose to people they shouldn't lose to. In fact, one of my closest friends, I can never beat him in the wrestling room, like every single time. Same weight class, so he was varsity that year, I was JV, I could not beat him. And then we went to a tournament. And in the tournament, we were on opposite side of brackets, and we started going through. There was a guy that he lost to. He lost to him by like, it wasn't even close. I lost him like 10 points, right? I wrestled that same guy and I tech followed him, which tech fall means I scored 15 points more than the other guy, so they stopped the match early. And I was like, how did you lose to him? Like, it's so fascinating to me. And so like, you look at head to head, skill by skill, muscle, strength, all the things, like he was better than me. But when it mattered, I won. What's the difference, right? Like it literally is your psychology. It's your brain. Like, and nobody focuses on that. We want to focus on putting in the reps and running and all those kind of things, which are great, but we don't focus on the thing that actually matters the most. And the same thing happens in business. So what typically happens is I try to trick people into like, come into our world, teach you how to build a funnel, which they need to know how to do. But that is so simple. Like I can build a funnel in an hour, right? The rest of the time, like while they're doing that, I've got to fix their mindset. I got to break the false beliefs. If I can get them on the right path, then they can be successful. And so it's one of those things that unfortunately people won't spend enough time talking about. Like when you do focus on that, it's the only thing that actually matters. I'm doing this now 25 years. There were different times where I would peak out in my success, right? And every time you hit a plateau with something, there's some belief you have that's holding you back, right? Because the person who's making $100,000 a year versus a million versus 10 versus 100, they're probably not working different. They're probably not smarter. It's like there's beliefs they have internally. And so for me initially, I think one of the first plateaus I hit in my business was like the 6-figure mark. Because in my mind, I remember my dad made 6 figures a year. And my dad was wealthy in our neighborhood. I was like, that's a lot of money. And so, in fact, I remember I was hustling, I was doing all sorts of stuff, I was selling things, I was having some success. And I'm on a call with somebody who was doing an interview with me on a teleseminar before podcasts were even invented. And he asked me, he's like, so I bet you're probably made 6 figures so far in your business. I was like, no, like, that's not even possible. And then I started thinking, I was like, actually, I have no idea. So I went back and I started looking at my bank accounts, my PayPal accounts, and different places money was coming in, my checks, and I added it all up. And I'd done over $100,000. At that point, I was like, I had no idea. And in my head, that was such a big number. I was just like, because that's what my dad made. And so for me to go from 100,000 to a million was the first like gap that was really difficult, because it was like my dad was successful, and so he made. And so to make beyond that was just like, I don't know, it didn't seem real or possible. And that was hard for me. So what happened about that time in my career is when I started going to events and I started meeting other people. These were people who had already broken the $1 million mark. And I started being around, I started talking to them, I started having phone calls with them, and just like trying to surround myself with that, because that seems so far from me. And then being around people who actually hit it, all of a sudden, like the more time I spend, it's like, oh, this is actually possible. I can actually do this. It took me a couple of years before I broke the $1 million a year mark. I remember breaking it. I was just like, oh, this is awesome. And then the next ceiling. Because what was next? 10 million? Like, I didn't know I made $10 million. Like, it was not something that was even something I could fathom or it was even possible. In fact, I remember I did a podcast episode saying, you have to be an idiot to want to make $10 million a year. In my head, I was like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Why would you ever want to do that, right? And I had these false beliefs. It was selfish, it was greedy, it was wrong, like whatever those things might be, right? So my first plateau was like, I can't make more than my dad. Next plateau was like $1 million is like this scary number, right? And the next after that was just like, why would I need that kind of money? What was the purpose? Like it didn't seem like something that was of value. And so for me, like there's always these different belief patterns. And a lot of times you don't realize what they are until you figure out how to break them, or you're looking back, or you find someone who already has, and you're like, man, this person does not have those beliefs that I do. I think I've done 4 or 5 interventions with Tony where I bring him a question, he like does this Tony magic and like changes my brain. It was after ClickFunnels was past $100 million a year and I was stuck. And I was like, I don't know how to get to the next level. I can't figure it out. And he's like, well, who are the people you're spending time with? And I was telling him, he's like, well, cool. Those are all people that have gotten businesses to your level. The thinking that got you there will not get you to the next level. He's like, proximity is power. Like you were in proximity to those people that got you to that level. But those people are at that level. He's like, if you want to get to the next level, you have to get in proximity with people at the next level. And that's how you're going to get, because it's going to shift your beliefs, your mindset, your subconscious mind, and that'll get you to the next level. That was just a fascinating breakthrough for me, because I thought, like, is there a level beyond this? And that's how you find it. And that's how you figure out what beliefs are holding you back. So the interesting thing about this book that's different than like a traditional book about subconscious is he's trying to show how your subconscious mind can bring out the creativity you need, right? So a lot of times, how many of us go and we have a problem we're trying to fix, right? And so you're doing meetings, you're reading books, like trying to solve this problem, and you can't figure out the problem. And then, has this ever happened to you where you're in the shower not thinking about it, you're showering, all of a sudden like the idea pops in your, like it just shows up magically, right? Like that's what this book's talking about. How do you create those moments? A little while ago in the office, we were same thing. We had like 8 of us in the bull pit talking about something, trying to solve this problem, and we spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours on it without coming to any, like none of us got an idea. And after about 2 hours, I'd been drinking way too many updates and drinks and stuff. I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. I'm literally gone maybe a minute. I disconnect my conscious mind. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to the bathroom. And instantly the idea just pops up, right? This is what his book talks so much about is learning how to use your subconscious mind. In fact, on page 13 here, he's talking about business people, entrepreneurs sitting at desks. He says, desks are not thinking machines. In fact, they are, with the paper and the clutter on them, they're apt to be distractions rather than to help us to actually think. They are the one place where men get so close to his business that he can get no perspective on it. So he talks about here is he starts talking about creating what's called, he calls it the 6-hour workday. Kind of like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, because it's a 6-hour workday. He's like, for 6 hours you're in there and you're able to work consciously. Like you're trying to figure out problems, you're solving them stuff. He said the last 2 hours of the day, what he found out all the business executives he coached on this, the last 2 hours of the day, they would stop doing like active work and then they would try to like engage their subconscious mind. I need creativity, I need ideas. You don't do that by sitting at your desk working. You do that by disengaging. For most of us, like they sit down the last 2 hours of the day from 3 to 5, they're reading a book, they're talking to the coworkers, they're walking. One of the stories here talks about Henry Ford, where he says Henry Ford, who obviously one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time, he said that he didn't ever sit at his desk. He would walk back and forth and back and forth. And he said that's how he became so successful, because he's never sitting here consciously doing work. He was spending time on the things he loved the most, thinking about, and then like the ideas would just kind of would pop up to the surface. And so that's what is one of the coolest things this book talks about. As you guys know, I am a workaholic. I love working. I love sitting at my desk, writing, reading. Like my days are jam-packed with a whole bunch of stuff. They have been for a decade plus since we launched ClickFunnels. I have not stopped moving. Like it just keeps going and going. As you probably know, about a month and a half ago, I was at a wrestling tournament and I detached both my biceps. Literally, God's like basically took me and put me on the sidelines. Like, Russell, you cannot work for a little bit. So I lost this arm first. I got surgery in this arm. I could not type. So I had one hand. So I'm typing with one hand as fast as I can, still trying to get everything done. And then on 2 weeks later, I got this one done. And all of a sudden I'm in double cast. I cannot type. And so I'm stuck there. And, we had an event. So I was on stage, an event with double cast. I couldn't talk. Earlier today, Todd Dickerson, who's my business partner at ClickFunnels, Todd brought to me and to our entire team, like basically some big issues we were dealing with and struggling with, right? We sat there for like 2 hours trying to figure out how do we solve this problem? And same thing, like we're going around, everyone's kind of putting ideas in, like we left the meeting uneasy because like no one knew the answer. And it's like, you have to solve this problem or else there's gonna be bad things that happen, right? Like you're gonna have to lay off team members. You're gonna have to it was one of those kind of problems. And I remember going home that night and I was tired. It'd been a long day. I had no arms, so I was frustrated. And normally what I would do is I would have someone turn on YouTube and I would try to like sedate myself and numb my brain. But for some reason I didn't want to. My wife left to his church activity, so I was home alone for a little bit. And so I remember sitting down, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm just gonna think until the answer shows up. So I sat on the couch, I'm just kind of daydreaming and thinking and stuff. And within 15 minutes, all of a sudden like, boom, this idea popped in my head and I was like, oh my gosh, I think it solves the problem. I'm looking from this angle and this angle, every single angle. I was like, this solves the problem. Like within 15 minutes, it just showed up when I disconnected from me working and doing stuff. And I was telling someone later, I was like, I feel like God literally like, stop working, put me on the sidelines and like, let me like push something in your subconscious mind. So he literally put him on the sideline, so I couldn't do anything, and all of a sudden, like, all these ideas started coming. And so 4-week period of time where I could not use my arms, doing literally what it talks about in this book, like shifting from, the 10-hour workday that Russell's normally doing. Even I couldn't even do a 6-hour workday that he talks about, recommends in his book, but I was literally doing like a 1 or 2 hour workday, and the rest of the time, like, I could just think or walk or, whatever. And that's when these ideas started bubbling up. And so it's pretty powerful when you understand, like, that's how your subconscious brain works. Because if you can't find the answer consciously, your conscious mind can only find things through your 5 senses, right? So if you can't see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or feel it, if you can't get the data from there, like, you can't find the answer. If you can't find it from one of those 5 senses, you need to step back and let your subconscious mind bring it to you. And when you understand that, that's the main principle of this book. That's how you start getting more creative in business. All these ideas will start bubbling up. Now, this book obviously talks a lot about using your subconscious mind for creativity, but the other thing to understand is your subconscious mind, it's the belief patterns you have. Yes, it will give you ideas, and those things will bubble up when you take the time to break away, but also, like, your subconscious mind, your subconscious beliefs are the level you're at. I remember Tony Robbins one time talking about how your subconscious beliefs are, and your identity are kind of like a thermostat, right? Where if your thermostat's set at 72, you may get a little above 72 or below, but like it snaps back up, right? It gets above, like the air conditioner comes on, snaps it back down. You go down below and the heater snaps back, but like that's like your floor, your subconscious floor, right? It's a lot of us, like, we have these beliefs, and this is our subconscious floor, right? And we have desire to raise the temperature, to raise the heat to 90 or 100 degrees where we want to be at, right? And so we set that conscious decision, like, I'm going to do the thing, right? And what happens is it goes up a little bit, and then your subconscious is like, nope. It snaps you back down to where it believes you belong, right? To that level. And so all of us, we have these subconscious floors, these beliefs that we have. And so if you ever felt stuck, like, that's the reason why. So understand your subconscious mind, how to figure, okay, where's the beliefs that I'm at? How do I break those beliefs and set a new temperature, right? A new level. Like, that's the key to start moving up and actually having more success than you are today. If you want to get a copy of this book, they are hard to find first editions. There's some reprints on Amazon that are okay, but I've got my notes for this. So if you want to see my notes on this book, going chapter by chapter, sharing the best quotes, the best ideas, examples, and case studies, and how you as a funnel hacker, you as a marketer can actually implement these things inside of your busy work days, down in the comments in the description, we will have a link to the notes where you can get notes for the subconscious mind in business. This book is awesome. It's powerful. It's a quick read, but it's something that will help increase your creativity and help you to break through whatever sticking point you're at and get to the next level.